Hi. Hello. It's rotation 15. I really hope I didn't hit the start recording too early and it cut off the first thing I said, which was hi. Anyways, I've been doing this too long. Let's get started. Opening up, we got Safe in the Steep Cliffs by Emancipator from Nick, and I'd actually heard something off of this before. I heard the song Rattlesnakes a long time ago, and it ended up in a playlist I have on Spotify for songs that I enjoy, possibly songs that warrant further exploration, but just weren't the right vibe or weren't good enough to make it on my daily list, and that's where it ended up. So I was pretty happy and excited to get to have an excuse to listen to the album fully, and it was pretty good. It's very atmospheric, relaxing, well done, well constructed. For what it was and what it was set out to do, did a really nice job. I kind of want to call it like fancy Skyrim music. Maybe not Skyrim, but like Oblivion. Medieval fantasy RPG music. Fancy, though. Well done. A lot more love and craft put into it than stuff you'd hear in a game, but it definitely had that energy, that vibe, atmosphere, whatever you want to call it. Music to wander through a mystical landscape to. I think that aptly sums it up, and I liked it. I think that there are times and activities for this. Definitely something I could put on during a hike, and it would elevate that experience for me. So Safe in the Steep Cliffs, I'm going to give it a 7. Next up, we got Exotico by Temples. This one's from Evan. And wowzers. Holy cow, even. At times, it was Gizzard-like, and at times, it was Tame Impala-like, and at times, it was both. And I really like both of those sounds. If I didn't know better, I looked it up. They're English. But if I didn't know better, this would be like the most Australian band I've ever listened to. Just in terms of the, maybe not influences, but the sounds that I heard. King Gizzard, Aussie. Tame Impala, Aussie. And they blended it. Some songs were, leaning more towards one side or the other, but overall, the experience was a blend of those two artists that I really, really like. And I thought they were blended really well. I thought it worked out. I thought it did what it was trying to do, and it did it well. Temples is now a band that I'm going to need to look into more to find more of this sound, to find more of the style, or even hopefully they kept this sound and they kept this style. But even if they didn't, I'm sure they went in an interesting direction, and if they did, I get more of this, which I would be thrilled with. I'm always on the lookout for new Gizzard, always on the lookout for new Tame Impala, and now I got a whole collection of albums that little surprises for me. It might be one, it might be the other, it might be both, it might be neither, but I really enjoyed Exotico. I liked a lot of the tracks off of it. I liked the overall vibe and the sound that they were creating. And I think that it deserves an 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed that. It's time for a bit of a controversy. Don't cancel me. Please. Please don't cancel me. We got Kid A by Radiohead from Jai. It's iconic. It's earned its legendary status, and I don't want to say anything bad about it. I'll say one thing that won't get me canceled, which is it's not my favorite Radiohead album. People are allowed to have different favorite Radiohead albums. Mine personally is In Rainbows. I like In Rainbows the best. But Radiohead has never been my favorite. I don't know if it's something about Tom York's voice. If it's just something about how they make the music. In Rainbows is the closest Radiohead has gotten to getting me really feeling. It's the only time Radiohead's given me goosebumps. And I get that Kid A is a seminal work. I get that it's really important, and it was definitely the first to do what it did of incorporating, I might be talking out of my ass, but I felt like it was incorporating IDM elements into it, or at least trying to mix those in. It's especially on like a song like Idiotech. How am I expected to believe that Aphex Twin didn't inspire that in some way, shape, or form? Like, come on. And there are moments on it I really like Idiotech. Idiotech's my favorite off of this album. But I just feel like it just doesn't do it for me, or at least not as much as it does it for other people. And I don't want to badmouth it any more than I have. I just think that could have been more. Could have done more for me. And so, with trepidation, I give Kid A 7. It's a 7. I'm sorry, it's a 7. It's a 7. In Rainbow's my favorite. That's still only like an 8.5 out of 10. Radiohead just isn't it for me. So, Kid A, 7 out of 10. I apologize. We got Pause by Fortet, submitted by Miscellaneous. And I'd listened to some Fortet. The person who actually sent this in introduced me to Fortet, and I've listened to some Fortet, some stuff off this album even. And there really is just nothing else like it, is there? It's calm, it's relaxing, but it's still really engaging. It holds you in. And it just creates this beautiful sonic environment to just be in, to just experience. It's lovely. Lovely is the term. That's the word I've been searching for a long time. Cozy. Like you're sitting in front of a fireplace sipping on some hot cocoa, but not that Swiss Miss garbage. I'm talking that real hot cocoa with a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg if we're getting wild with it. Some cloves, allspice even. Got a cozy blanket. That's the picture. That's the painting that this elicits. And truly, I don't know that another artist really elicits that feelings. It's almost the equivalent to me of the Joe Pera. It's the Joe Pera of music. It puts me in a warm, happy mood. Nostalgic might not be... Let me rephrase. This sound isn't nostalgia. It's not nostalgic. But it gives that same internal feeling that you get from nostalgia, at least in my opinion. Now, was there a part of it that blew me away? No. There were plenty of great tracks on it. There were plenty of great moments, but nothing that really hit and stuck with me. But the album as a whole, the sound, the experience of it, unlike anything else, and I think it deserves an 8. We got Daytona by Pusha T from Brendan, and I was a little bit turned off when it was described as coke rap. That did not set a high bar in my head, but it was better than I thought it would be. It is intense, but it wasn't overwhelming at any time. The beats were really good. I really liked the beats on it. But, and I have this complaint with a lot of hip-hop, I just kind of didn't care for the subject matter. I didn't really care about what they were talking about. And so because of that, that definitely created a barrier to my enjoyment of it. But it was still good, still worthwhile. I'm glad I listened to it. I'm glad I, got exposed to it. And, I'm slowly but surely refining my tastes and my preferences when it comes to rap. And Daytona did some things great. And there were other things I just didn't care for. So Daytona, Pusha T, it was short. And I feel like there were ideas that it could have expanded upon. And again, you switch out that subject matter for something a little more conscientious. And I think I'd like it a lot more. But for what it was, I think it's a 7. It's fine. I'm not going to really gripe about it, We got Songs for the Deaf from Queens of the Stone Age from Jude. And I like Queens of the Stone Age. But here's a note. Queens of the Stone Age, at least in my experience, are very good at producing songs. You know, like No One Knows. Is that what it's called? I think that's called No One Knows. Is great. There's some other singles that I really like. Little Sister, Threes and Sevens, My God is the Sun. But when it comes to a full album experience, I just don't know that Queens of the Stone Age are really great at delivering that. It's not super cohesive. I mean, in terms of its tone and its sound, it is. And this isn't really me. I'm not at least trying to say that Queens of the Stone Age all sounds the same, but there's definitely, similarities. It's one style. It goes through and it stays in that style, and it's a good style. They do it well, but the album itself wasn't transformative. I don't know if that's the word. I don't know if that's the right word, but it just it was less than the sum of its parts. And given that this is Music Club, this is me reviewing albums, not songs, not bands. I think Queens of the Stone Age, if they made a best of album, it would be their best album. So it's going to get a 6.5 out of 10. I just think as a project, as a long experience, they probably could have done more to make it more individual, to make it more stand out. But it just wasn't. I'm going to take a sip of water. I got water this time. Would you look at that? And Allie's home too. So I got to keep this going. All right. We got Chaos Now by Jean Dawson from Hunter. This was unique. Nick listened to this before I did, and Nick went up to me at work one day. He said, "Hey, I think you're going to like this album." And it turns out I did like this album. I liked it quite a lot. Thought it was really unique hip-hop. I liked, I guess, the sprinklings of rock in there. And the subject matter, while it wasn't my favorite, better than most, or at least better than my preconceived stereotypes of the genre. Now, there moments that really got into me, and I really got into it and I really vibed with it? Nah, there weren't. But each track had something I appreciated about it. And the album as a whole, I think, did enough with experimenting, did enough to change its sound, to change its style, to keep me engaged the whole way through. And I really should look and see, is this his first album? Is this a later album? Because I think that there's a lot of parts of it that I really like and I really appreciate. And if you just put them together a little differently, this could really be something special for me. But as it stands, I think that, at least to conform to my tastes, could use a little bit of work. But overall, I thought it was fascinating. I enjoyed it. Glad I heard it. Glad it was suggested. So, Chaos Now, 7 out of 10. Call it there. We got Yanqui U.X.O by Godspeed You Black Emperor from Kyle. I really love it. It's Godspeed. They don't make bad music. That's just how it is. Every Godspeed You Black Emperor album is a good album. And Yanqui U.X.O, obviously, is no exception to that. My favorite part of it's Motherfucker Redeemer, especially when it hits that first crescendo. That first crescendo, in my opinion, is the best moment in the entire discography of Godspeed You Black Emperor. The album itself, super cohesive, as always, puts you in a really great atmosphere that you just get to sit in and experience. It's constructed beautifully. It's performed beautifully. It conveys such massive emotions without having to say a word. It's Godspeed You Black Emperor. It's them. They are him. And so it's good. It's great. It's amazing. And unfortunately, I would say pretty much the exact same thing about every other Godspeed You Black Emperor album. You can only compare them to each other when it comes down to it. And in my opinion, you got F sharp, A sharp, Infinity up at the top. You got Lift Your Skinny Fists. And then it's getting a little fuzzy. It gets a little fuzzy. It's not Alleluia. What's the other one? What's the other black and white one? It's got the sheeps on it. Starts with... No. I am thinking of Alleluia. Mladic is my favorite Godspeed song. And so when you're comparing them to each other, Yanqui U.X.O is great, but I think it's maybe like number 4 on the whole list. Still a 9 out of 10. You can be a 9 out of 10 and still be number 4, and that's what this is. So Yanqui U.X.O 9 out of 10. I really, really tried, Dom. I went into this as open-minded and as fair as I could. Sorry. We have Lover by Taylor Swift, submitted by Dom in an attempt to hurt me, which he succeeded in. Okay, I went into this as open-minded as I could have. I pulled it up and I said, she's really popular, possibly, arguably, the most popular musician in the world right now, at least in the United States. So there's gotta be something to it, right? There's gotta be something special that she does that sets her apart and makes people love her the way they do, makes people obsessed with her. And so I went into this thinking I will, at the very least, get a taste. See if I can't figure out what makes Taylor such a phenomenon. But fucking hell, this sucked, man. It was so goddamn boring. Okay. Spoiler alert, it's a 2 out of 10, but here's why. If it was just unremarkable and boring, it would have gotten a 4. I'm gonna say. Unremarkable, boring, but inoffensive, it's a 4. Yet, there are numerous thoughts that I can't get rid of about this album. First off, it sounds like it was written by a committee. This sounds like you took the 1% of America and you put them in a conference room and you said, let's make the most generic mass appeal music we can. There was not a hint of personality. The only hint of personality is when Taylor Swift interjects with her bitchy voice, but that just sounds so fake and so produced. I don't think that's her. Just the way it's presented, even if it is her, I wouldn't fucking believe it. So that's one. No individuality in it. None at all. Tasteless. 2, it was insulting to my intelligence and insulting to the intelligence of every person who has had to listen to it. Because on every track, I counted, I went through every single track, there's a moment of build-up in the instruments where you're like, okay, they could go somewhere with this. They could be interesting. They might do something that causes an emotional response in me in the way that, art is supposed to do. And it would get to that point, it would almost hit that crescendo. Almost. And then it's like she was a 5-year-old with her baby's first Casio keyboard, and the one button that she knows makes music is the presets. And she would go from that possibly interesting build into the most basic, repetitive, cliched beat I've heard in my life. Every time, without fail, Dominic, without fail, she would do this. And it hurt. Because if even one song actually built on its instrumental themes and did something that actually brought it to a satisfying conclusion, okay, that I can understand. But the fact that not one moment of this song of this album left me in suspense or left me wondering, the fact that if you blindfolded me, if you put me on you give me 6 Xanax, I could still tell you exactly what's going to happen next without fail every time. This album is dog shit. I tried. You can't tell me I didn't try. I was in disbelief the entire time. there had to be something there. There had to. But there wasn't. Never, not once, did I give a single fuck about what was happening. Taylor Swift, On Her Own, part 3, she is, and this is the most generous and kind word I can possibly come up for it, Taylor Swift is a competent songwriter. She can make lyrics that fit the metric structure and rhyme and tell a story. But she can't stop herself from going between two modes. Either, hey ChatGPT, write me a story about an 18 to 24-year-old having a relationship that might not be so great, or Wattpad, something that a child wrote on Wattpad. I don't care about Taylor Swift. I used to care. I used to be like, oh, okay, she's dating a football man. Oh, okay, some kid is tracking her plane. I don't care anymore. I just don't. I don't care about any of it. This kind of broke me. This made me really sad. I'll say a nice thing. It wasn't offensive. It didn't hurt to listen to. It just felt like eating drywall. It's a 2. It's a 2. Thankfully after that, I got to listen to Back to Black by Amy Winehouse. Thanks, Xavier. Thanks for digging me out of that very, very dark hole. You want to talk about passion and individuality and personality and lyricism and instrumentals. This album has it all. She was so talented. I knew Rehab. That's what I knew going into it, but there were several songs off this that I'd heard before and just been like, wait, that was Amy Winehouse? Oh, okay, I get it now. At first I thought, like, oh, she was one hit wonder, and yeah, it's sad that she died, but knowing all of those songs belonged to her on this one album, wild. Just kind of nuts. It's nuts. She was so talented. So she did what she did, and she did it great. This is not my genre, but I have to respect the hell out of this. Her performances are singular. The passion in her singing, the things she sings about are so deeply personal. And there's such a melancholy is not even the right word. She's passionate. She has energy, but it's almost sickness. It feels like sickness. And I'm sure some of that's colored by how the story ends, I guess. But the album is just phenomenal. I get the acclaim. I understand it now. Yeah, Back to Black. That's an 8 out of 10. Not something I'd usually listen to, but absolutely deserves the acclaim it gets. Next up, we got Redacted by Redacted from Jude, or should I say by Jude, because he made this. Well, he was part of it. He was the drummer, right? Or is the drummer. Cool thing. I went to a record store kind of recently, and they were selling this on CD, so I'm happy for Jude. But I need to go about this objectively. I don't want this to color my opinions. It was very professionally done. It was very well made. No offense. Jude, I know you're young, and the rest of your bandmates are young, and you've definitely had experience, but I wasn't expecting it to come out this way. The level of professionalism, the level of detail, and just how polish. That's the word. It was way more polished than I thought it would be. And for that, I thought it was great. I thought really good work. You guys did a good job. 100%. But this style of music just isn't something I generally go for. There's exceptions, and there were definitely some songs off this that I did really like and I vibed with, especially Get Out of My Head. I really liked that one. Goodbye, Mrs. Henderson was also really solid. It's just not the kind of music I would normally seek out. It's not the kind of music I usually consume. But for that genre that I don't experience a lot, you guys nailed it. You did a great job. And for those people who like that kind of pop punk, that kind of Green Day kind of feel, I think they would love it. And I know a few people who do. I've already told them. I'll continue selling it. I believe in you guys. You're doing great. You got this. 6.5 out of 10. Just my opinion. Only my opinion. I thought it was really good. It's just not what I usually listen to. So 6.5. It's good. Just not for me. And now we have Cross by Justice from me. And it's great. I love it. It's really good. It's... yes. Every song. From one, okay, just the opening of Genesis. So like, I don't know that another album opens as amazingly, as perfectly as Cross does, with that massive horn and that first drop. Oh my, so good. And then it just keeps going. It just keeps going. It builds, it builds, it builds, it builds, it builds. And it's every song's different. It has its own personality. It has its own individuality. But they're so cohesive. They work so well together as a full project. And it elicits all the different ranges of emotion. Like, you got Genesis and Let There Be Light, almost a little bit of tension, a little anxiety in there. Then, you got like New Jack, DANCE. I'm grooving. I'm having a fantastic time. I'm loving this, McDonald's style, And then you get to Phantom, which is, the small subset of songs I physically cannot stay still to while listening. Phantom tops that. I cannot be still when I'm listening to Phantom. It's just so fun. Stress absolutely builds stress. It is named really well. Watching the music video, I understand why it was controversial. That a little bit fucked up, and but good for them. Good for them for making provocative art. I always support that. Always love that. It's great. It's you. If you listened to it, it's great. And if you didn't listen to it, you should listen to it because it's great. And it's a 9.5 out of 10. All right, I had a few extracurricular works in here. Let's see. Let's go in here. Let's see. Okay, just the one this time. I listened to Didn't It Rain by Songs Ohio. I listened to this because I was just looking through Rate Your Music one day, and I went to the slowcore chart, and this was really highly rated. I already know and love and have it on my list, a different album from Songs Ohio. So I checked it out, and it's not as good as Magnolia Electric Company, which we'll get to, but it was still really good. Jason Molina does such a good job performing the songs, writing the songs, and it really does convey a melancholy, a bittersweetness that few other artists, I feel like, hit. And so, while it's not as good as Magnolia Electric Company, it's still an artist that I really love, doing what they do best, giving me more of that, just not hitting the exact same kind of vibe that I would have liked, but it was really good. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. We'll call it there, and I won't see you next month. I will actually hopefully be a little more consistent going forward. It's just been really hectic. So